Hey everyone, David Szafranski, your host of Financial Revelations, coming to you live, well, actually on tape, not even really on tape, on solid state stuff from Avon, Ohio. A lot of people laugh at me in the background. You can't see them. Of course, you can always see me on Twitter, hear from me, and reach out to me at SkiBucks1. All this is going to be running below me, but I'd like to say at WCRF on Thursday mornings. You can listen to me on the app no matter where you're at. You can call here with questions. You can email Corey with questions. And we're going to the Amazon in June to have our missions trip where we dig a fresh water well for people who live along the river and drink dirty water. And they get sick, and that's nativosusa.org. And if you want to donate to help send people there, that'd be great. I'd love it if you do it. People are donating. Aside from a small service fee that the missions, not me, the people who process the checks and everything take, 100% of it goes to drill that well. So it's either drilling the well or bringing people to drill the well. If somebody can pay, they got to pay. It's not expensive to go, but I take pastors and worship leaders and people who can't necessarily pay. I want to have them experience it too and be part of it. And so we do bring some people with us, but I'd love for you to go if you want to go. And again, call those numbers and reach out to us if you're interested in that. You know, it's the first quarter earnings season. A lot of companies are coming out with earnings. And last night, Tesla came out with their sales and their earnings, and they were misses. They missed their sales number. They missed their profit number. And I love Elon Musk. I really do. He's a genius. And the things that he's done with Tesla and SpaceX and Twitter, now X, are just extraordinary. The Boring Company. These are extraordinary things. You know, if Elon Musk had not bought Twitter, we would never know what went on. But because he bought Twitter, they laid off 75% of the staff at Twitter, and it works just fine. There's a lesson in there for the federal government. But Tesla came out last night with a sales miss, with an earnings miss. And this is happening across the board. And Ford has laid off hundreds of workers for the F-150 Ford Lightning. The CEO tried to drive the Ford Lightning across the country, and he said, we're not ready. The country is not ready for this because you can't charge enough. My friend Jerry, who lives in, this is a true story. Sorry, Jerry, if you're watching. My friend Jerry, who lives in Kentucky, comes up to visit me. He's in this industry, so we talk a lot, and I use some of his products. I hadn't seen him in a little while, so he drives up, and I said, Jerry, what happened? Your head is like the size of 3 basketballs. What happened? He said, I bought a Tesla, and I got to charge it in Columbus on the way here, and I got to charge it on the way back, and he stops and eats. He put on like 100 pounds. I'm like, Jerry, you need to buy an internal combustion engine before you blow up. That's what's happening. These cars, they're great for maybe if you're just going around town, but they're not great for travel. And so the EV market has stalled. They've reached a saturation point where the people that really wanted EVs, the people who had to have EVs, well, they got their EVs. And they're not buying more EVs. These cars are $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a pop. I was on the Rivian list. I bought a Rivian R1T. I was like one of the early adopters of the Rivian. And so I put $1,000 down. You can have it back at any time. And they finally, 3 years later, they called me and said, hey, your car's ready if you want it. And I thought they were joking. I thought it was my friend prank calling me because I'd just been complaining to him the previous day about how I'm never going to get that car. Well, I went and I drove one and I bought it, and I noticed that at the time you could sell that for $40,000 over purchase price to another sucker. So that's what I did. I sold it to a sucker in Las Vegas, and I took that money and I opened up a business in the Amazon for the church. So when you go there, you're going to go to our butcher shop and you're going to buy some meat. So is it investable to buy these renewable energy things? I think we're seeing renewable energy kind of at a saturation point. So it's not going away. I know that. I'm relatively certain that renewables are not going away, and there is a place for them, albeit niche and small, kind of like annuities. But how do you invest in it? Well, here's how I like to do it. I think when you get the next administration, which will probably be Republican, you're going to see a push towards nuclear power. And I know we haven't built a nuclear power plant in a long time in America. But one thing that we do have is we have the opportunity now to get these kind of their like micro nuclear plants. You know, you drive out west and you see Perry Power Nuclear Plant or the one out in Port Clinton, and there's these huge cooling towers. They don't build those anymore. They take forever and they're way over cost. So they put up these kind of small nuclear power plants, and they're concentrated to a certain area, maybe, you know, like a 50-mile circle, and that's where they produce power for. But now you take that circle and you take coal out, you take natural gas out. Natural gas is a waste to produce power with. It's just not efficient enough. It's clean, way cleaner than coal, and I think we should continue to burn coal and use natural gas, but these small nuclear power plants are really very efficient, and they're quick to build. They come in just about on budget. You know, everything's a little over budget because you have people suing against nuclear power, not in my backyard type of people. It's way better than wind. Wind is the biggest fallacy ever. Unless it's windy all the time, these things are a waste. You see these trucks going down the road with windmill blades on them, and it's like 4 semi-trucks long, and they're not recyclable. What do? They just bury them in the ground. They don't last forever. They take oil to run. It's a lie. The windmills are a lie. Most renewable energy is kind of a lie. And it's not expandable across the country. It's not really renewable, and it's not clean. You look at what it takes to put a battery in an electric vehicle, and it's pretty dirty. So how do we do it? I like uranium because of nuclear power. I do believe that EVs are going to be around for the long haul, so I do like lithium. I don't necessarily like the individual companies that do EVs. I would not buy Rivian stock. I would buy Tesla stock. I do own them because they're kind of like the Kleenex of EVs. So early on, they were the only game in town. So they've got a huge head start. Their batteries are better. And I like hybrids. You know, Toyota is going back and they're perfecting the hybrid, and they're going to beat everybody to it. And you're going to be driving a pickup truck that gets 65 miles a gallon, and it's going to have to be a Toyota. Unless Ford gets their head out of their fourth point of contact and says, let's perfect hybrids, because that's the way to go. They're cleaner, they get huge gas mileage, and you don't have a 7,000-pound vehicle driving on the roads. They're relatively light and powerful. You know, the thing that I love about a Tesla is it'll beat a Lamborghini off the line, or it'll beat any car off the line. They go 0 to 50 or 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. That's hypercar speed. You can't believe this stuff. Couple of questions I got on the radio recently. Somebody called and asked about a HELOC. Is a HELOC a good idea if you need money, but you don't want to sell investments, you don't want to take a loan from your uncle, but you got a house with equity in it? How do HELOCs work? Well, a HELOC is borrowing against the equity in your house. The rate's always variable. It's based on prime rate. And so your rates are in the upper 6s, early 7s right now. But I think rates are coming down later in this year, so I'm not against a variable rate right now. I think you're going to be high on the front end, and then you're going to see rates come down a little bit. They're a little bit slower on coming down than they are on going up, but that is going to happen. And so if you had, let's say you had a $500,000 house, you had $300,000 of equity in it, and you need $100,000 for something, send a kid to college, you're going to buy a couple of cars, whatever, you're going to fix your roof. You know, you could get a home equity line of credit for $100,000, but you could just take out $20,000, and that's what you pay interest on. It's not a bad deal. It's not my first way to go. I'd rather use my emergency fund if it was an emergency like your furnace going out, but it's not a bad idea to have a line of credit. So even if you don't use it, a HELOC isn't a bad idea because it kind of sits there until you need it, and you write a check against it, or you tell them to put money into your checking account from it. So I do like HELOCs. I like using that. You know, if you're not going to move, and you can make the payments, because this is not a 30-year loan. This is something that you should be amortizing over 5-6 years. So that's how I look at it. But I do like having lines of credit open. I think everybody should have a line of credit open if they can, and a house is a good way to do it, especially if you got a lot of equity, your house is paid off because you don't have to use it. So it's just one more source that you could go to if you need to. And I am getting a lot of questions now about Bitcoin ETFs. Well, listen, My opinion of Bitcoin hasn't changed. I don't love it. It's true people are making money on it from time to time, but I look at it as a risk investment. It is a speculative investment where it is possible that the government could regulate it in such a way where you could lose all your money. So how do I invest in speculative investments? Lightly. I do it very lightly. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, I've got this block of money and I want to put it all in Bitcoin, I'd say, I'm not your place. I'm not doing that. If you want 5% of your money in Bitcoin or an asset, just an aggressive growth, risk type speculative asset, well, then it may be able to work. But that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Now, it's true that when you use something like an ETF, it does lend credibility to the asset. And as the ETFs were getting approved, Bitcoin shot up and then prices kind of rocked back down again. This is a very volatile speculative asset, and you have to be prepared for that. And that's why I say, well, maybe 3, 4, 5%, but I'm not putting 15% of my money in there. I'm not betting the farm on Bitcoin. Now, if Bitcoin went back down to $20,000, would I allocate some money to it? Yeah, probably I would in an ETF. Especially the cheaper the ETF, the better. Now, I know people say, well, what's 1.5% a year in an ETF? Well, any one year, it's not a lot. It's true. But over time, it has an impact. So if I have choices where, hey, all things being equal, the fees in this one are a lot lower, I'm picking this one. Why should I pay more for the exact same thing someplace else? That doesn't make sense to me. So I try and manage costs as much as possible when I invest for people. We got to look out for our clients. We got to act in your best interest. We're a fiduciary. So all things being equal, if I could get a lower cost vehicle doing the exact same thing, it makes sense to me to look that way, and it should to you too. Managing costs, even the small ones, every dollar counts. When I hear an advisor or somebody in finance talk about, well, it's only this much money. It's not their money, it's the client's money. I never liked that. I always thought, I think you're getting haughty in your approach. So we're not haughty in our approach. We're trying to manage costs as much as possible in my own portfolio and your portfolio, and that's what I think you should do. A lot of people listen to the radio and they listen to the podcast, and some people get my newsletter. They never invest with us. They're using us as a proxy to check things, and they might even call here and ask me a question. You don't have to invest with us, but I want you to do well. I want you to maximize your benefit. I want you to get the most out of what you're doing so that at some point in time you could turn around and give it away to charity. I think you could tell a lot about a person by the way they look at their checkbook. If they have a hard time giving away money, you're kind of hoarding it, there's a heart condition there about money. And we have been so blessed in America. And I know we got high inflation right now. We've got politics going on and all that. And it's a presidential election season, so it's about to get hot. But in all of that, we have it better than anybody else in the world. You got to trust me. Anybody that's traveled around the world, they know this. And things are going to get better. I know we have an administration that doesn't seem to care about the average person right now, but it's going to get better. We're going to get a different administration. And I do believe that they're going to straighten things out. And I'm watching the turn happen. I'm seeing it in a lot of different places. So keep up the fight. Don't stop. Don't stop fighting. If you believe it, don't stop fighting for it. I do believe, I don't know if this is the most important election we've ever had, but I believe our way of life in many ways is at risk. And we got to fight for it. America got great because we are free market capitalists, and that's the kindest thing you could be. In a world where you could be anything, be a free market capitalist. It drags more people out of poverty. It lifts more people up. It creates success for more people. It provides more money for charity than any nation that has ever been. So fight for what we got, and don't let me down. I am David Szafranski, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.